I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks for joining us this Monday. We're going to get started this morning with new developments in the battle for the Republican Party's presidential nomination ahead of tomorrow's New Hampshire primary.
The GOP field is now down to just two, the frontrunner, former President Donald Trump, and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley. That comes after Florida Governor Ron DeSantis dropped out of the race yesterday. DeSantis, who came in a distant second place in the Iowa caucuses, threw his weight behind Trump yesterday in his withdrawal speech.
I can't ask our supporters to volunteer their time and donate their resources if we don't have a clear path to victory. It's clear to me that a majority of Republican primary voters want to give Donald Trump another chance. Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge. He has my endorsement.
For more on all this, let's bring in our senior national politics reporter, John Allen, and our senior politics editor, Mark Murray. Good morning to both of you. So, John, we'll start with you. I know you've been looking at the final hours of Ron DeSantis' campaign. Often a dropout like this, it comes shortly after a defeat, not sort of in between Iowa and New Hampshire like this. So what are you learning? Why did he end up dropping out yesterday?
Yeah, I think the bottom line, Joe and Savannah, is Ron DeSantis wanted to assess what was going on, wanted to see the donations coming in, wanted to get out on the campaign trail one last time when we talked to people close to him for that story. I mean, there was a real desire to wait until he couldn't see a path. And traveling in New Hampshire, it should not have been shocking to him to find that there was not much of a path. He was polling in the low single digits. For the most part, people weren't showing up. There were not a lot of people showing up to his campaign rallies. South Carolina, a similar outlook. And so eventually he concluded, what I think was obvious to a lot of other people, that there really wasn't a chance for him to be able to beat Donald Trump in this race. He met with advisors on Sunday morning in the governor's mansion in Tallahassee, a group that included Congressman Chip Roy from Texas, who's been very close to him, had a final conversation about it. Went upstairs with his wife, Casey, to have one last kind of one-on-one about it. They decided at that point that he would, in fact, drop out, and then you saw him drop out and endorse former President Trump.
John, what's been the reaction from Trump as well as from Haley to him dropping out?
Yeah, what we're seeing from Trump right now, and it's been going on since Iowa, is a call for unity in the Republican Party. Trump was magnanimous, or as magnanimous as Trump gets. When DeSantis dropped out, people around Trump, including Congressman Matt Gaetz, one of his biggest backers, one of his most prominent backers, have been saying nice things about Ron DeSantis, a guy that they've been trashing for months. So, this is a moment for Donald Trump where he believes he can use a call for unity against Nikki Haley, make it even harder for her to attack him, and to try to start turning toward that general election with Joe Biden.
All right, Mark, let's bring you in here. Look ahead to tomorrow's New Hampshire primary. Does Haley have any chance of reining in Trump? Could she pick up some former DeSantis supporters now? What do things look like for her in New Hampshire?
Well, Joe, the good news for Nikki Haley is the contest here in New Hampshire is closer than it was in Iowa. The bad news is, according to multiple polls that we've seen, Donald Trump has a double-digit lead from likely Republican primary voters. That ranges from a 19-point lead that we've seen in the Suffolk-Boston Globe NBC 10 tracking poll, as well as even an 11-point lead from other polling out there. And so right now, you have a situation where Nikki Haley is doing well with New Hampshire's independent voters, but Donald Trump is doing so much better among the registered Republican voters in the Granite State. And as far as how this all kind of breaks out with DeSantis out of the race, it's worth noting that Suffolk-Boston Globe tracking poll showed about DeSantis's supporters went to Donald Trump by almost a 2-to-1 margin over Nikki Haley. And so that, I think that's kind of instructive. If you remove Ron DeSantis, it probably helps Donald Trump more than it hurts him.
Mark, between Trump and Haley, let's now stack this up. I mean, who has a better chance in a hypothetical matchup against President Biden? And also, sorry to throw an extra question here, but could this kind of all be over by Wednesday morning in terms of the Republican nominee?
So as far as the general election polling right now, the national polling, as well as even some polling in New Hampshire, which has been a battleground state in past election cycles, shows Nikki Haley actually overperforming in hypothetical matchups versus President Biden over Donald Trump. But, you know, a caveat, we still have 10 months to go before the general election. These are hypothetical matchups, not even kind of measuring what a third party vote might be. But then, Santa, to your kind of question on, is this primary race over after Tuesday night? The indications are, you know, if you can't beat Donald Trump to the right in Iowa, if you can't beat him going to the middle in New Hampshire, where can you beat him? And I think that that is the biggest question remaining for Nikki Haley, as she's the only candidate left now against Donald Trump.
So much will depend on what those independent voters do tomorrow night in New Hampshire. All right, John and Mark, thank you both for kicking us off this hour. We appreciate it. Make sure to tune in to our special coverage of the New Hampshire primary tomorrow night. It's beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern. Kristen Welker, Tom Yamas, and Hallie Jackson right here on NBC News Now and Peacock.
Well, just one day before the New Hampshire primary, a source close to former President Trump tells NBC News that he intends to testify in his own defense in the civil defamation damages case involving writer E. Jean Carroll.
Trump has already been found liable last year of sexually abusing and defaming Carroll. Now a New York judge is set to decide how much money he'll owe her in damages.
For more on this, let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Angela Sanadella. Angela, great to see you. So if Trump does appear in court again, it sets up this showdown with the same judge that we've seen him get into this heated argument with before, who threatened to kick him out of the courtroom. Trump at the time had replied, "I would love it." So kind of seeing some of that drama play out in the courtroom with their history and the issue of monetary damages on the line. What can we expect from the trial today and the rest of the week? What are you watching for?
So I think if he does testify, there are going to be fireworks for a lot of reasons, but primarily because we know that he has difficulty staying within the lines. And the judge has warned him that in this case, it's not a question of did he assault E. Jean Carroll or did he not? If he wanted to testify to that, he should have testified in the actual fact-finding trial. But the fact that he did not testify there does not mean that right now he can testify to that. So that's what his team wants to do, but he is not going to be allowed. So if he does get up on that stand, the only thing he can testify to is whether or not these financial damages should be limited. But I ask you, Savannah and Joe, how is Donald Trump going to really be able to know or offer any personal evidence about how much damage this has incurred to E. Jean Carroll if he claims he's never even met her, doesn't even know her? So I have a lot of questions about what this testimony is going to be like today. In terms of the future, we expect to see a fair amount of damages. Her team is asking for $10 million, but there's also the question of punitive damages, which are uncapped in New York. And look, punitive damages are meant to deter. We know that Donald Trump might not be deterred in this case.
So Trump lawyer Alina Habba also renewed a motion for a mistrial on Friday. This was after Carroll said in her testimony she deleted old emails that had threats to her safety. A judge denied the first request last week. What grounds does Trump's team have for that claim? How realistic is it that the judge will go for that?
It's unrealistic that that claim will be allowed, will be approved. It will most certainly be denied again. But the question here is somewhat significant, which is if her entire testimony and her case for damages is based on these alleged death threats, and if she cannot produce those death threats because those emails were deleted by her, I mean, his team is asking a real question, which is, well, then how can you possibly measure damages here?
How much will the verdict in the previous defamation trial make a difference during deliberations in this one? Remind us this connection.
So in the last trial, we saw $5 million in damages. And I do think it's possible that that will be a starting number here, but the final number will be far higher than that. And that's because in general with defamation, one of the issues is, will this stop this person from doing it again? Will this not continue to happen over and over? But we see that Donald Trump has just continued to say that he doesn't know her, that he didn't assault her, that she is a quote unquote liar. And that is problematic. That's the definition of defamation here. So I think it's possible the damages awarded due to the fact that he was undeterred in the past could be much, much higher. Savannah, Joe.
All right. Angela Sanadella, as always, thank you. Well, millions of people are starting to get much-needed relief from the severe winter weather that gripped the nation last week. Record-breaking icy temperatures swept through the south, while states in the north were blanketed with snow. NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch has the latest from Detroit.
Hey, good morning, guys. After a days-long Arctic blast has been pummeling much of the country, for millions, a warm-up could soon be on the way. That could start to happen as early as today. And by midweek, take a look at these numbers. New York City could hit 43 degrees. Atlanta could hit 64. And this, of course, will be relief from what has been not only a nuisance, but dangerous cold. According to officials nationwide, there have been at least 63 weather-related fatalities reported since January 12th. The big chill over the weekend setting record lows, including 20 below in Sioux City, Iowa. And as far south as Florida, there are situations where iguanas have been known to become immobile in the cold and even fall from trees. So that's something to keep an eye out for as well. And again, we are hoping to be getting a warm-up out here in Detroit, for example. But even in the cold, Lions fans celebrating here in Motor City, heading to their first NFC Championship game in more than 30 years. Back to you guys.
All right, Jesse Kirsch, stay warm. Thank you.
That wind is keeping it warm. That relief from the cold comes a soggy start to the week for parts of the plains and the Midwest.
For more on that, we've got NBC meteorologist Michelle Grossman with us in studio this morning. Hi, Michelle. Good morning.
Hi there, guys. Great to see you. And yeah, we're kind of a mess to start out with. Once again, I'm really busy, and we're looking at this radar showing us that we have a lot going on. We have a warm side to the storm system. We have some storms down in portions of the Central Plains, and then we have a lot of ice falling. That's where you see the pink, and we could see accumulating ice in some spots, a quarter inch, a half inch. That's going to make for really slippery travel, but also bring down some power lines. It's going to create some power outages, especially in portions of Arkansas, Oklahoma, into Missouri. On the cold side, we're looking at lots of snow in some spots. We're looking at some snow to the northern plains. When I say lots of snow, I mean areas of snow. And then as we look towards the west, we're really messy there, too. We have a series of storms that have been moving onshore, and we're going to see that once again this week. So as we go throughout the day, we're looking at really heavy rainfall. That's going to bring localized flooding, also some really higher mountain snow, and some ice as well. So kind of a repeat performance there. 57 million people under winter alerts still on this Monday morning. We're looking at winter storm advisories, winter storm warnings. That is in the pink. And then ice storm warnings in the purple. And again, that's where we could see some really tricky travel as we go throughout the day. This is a setup. We have an area of low pressure. It's pulling that moisture off the Gulf, and that's why we're going to see really heavy rain throughout the south central states along the Gulf Coast. And it's not just today. It's tomorrow, also Wednesday. We could see a total of 10 inches of rain in some spots. And then we're looking to look at that freezing rain as well as that snow falling. So heavy rain and flood risk increases in the southern plains. As we go throughout tomorrow, we're going to see a narrow band of snow. This is on the cold side of the system into portions of the Northeast and also New England. New Hampshire could see some light snow. We're not expecting any troubles there for the primary, but could see some light snow falling as we go throughout the day on Tuesday. Still some really heavy rain in the south central states, into the lower Mississippi Valley, into the Gulf Coast states, and could see some stormy weather as well. Then Wednesday, Gulf moisture continues to enhance rainfall. You see all these bright colors. That's where we expect the highest amounts of rain. So the reds, the yellows, the oranges, and still some freezing rain returning to the upper Midwest. That's where you're seeing those pinks kind of showing up. So we could see some sleet in addition to some freezing rain. For the New Hampshire primary, I mentioned those light snow showers. Not a whole lot of problems. It's going to be chilly with temperatures at or below freezing in a lot of spots, but we'll see that light snow developing in the afternoon and evening. Not expecting a lot of accumulation. Let's talk about the rainfall. It's a lot. We're looking at the Gulf Coast states into the lower Mississippi Valley, the Tennessee Valley, where you see those reds, the oranges, the yellows. That's where we're going to see a lot of rainfall. And we could see locally up to 10 inches. And look at all this ice. It's really expansive. We're looking at portions of the Central Plains into the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, even parts of extreme the Northeast, the interior parts of the Northeast. So we're going to look up for power outages there. Snowfall, not expecting a whole lot, but we're looking at some snow for portions of the Great Lakes once again into parts of New England and the interior parts of the Northeast. But here's the good news. We are trending warmer. Not exactly today in most spots. We're going to be above average finally in parts of the upper Midwest. and also parts of New England. But we're still pretty chilly in New York City. We're still below average, it's 37 today. But look at that yellow popping in. That's telling us that we have some warmer air coming in finally. We're looking at temperatures in the 60s and 70s in spots. Houston, 71 degrees, 6 degrees above average. Raleigh, 54, 41 degrees. Doesn't sound that warm, but much warmer than where we have been. So 2 degrees above average in New York City. And then as we go towards the later part of the week, by Thursday, 50 degrees, Friday, 57.
57?
This, I know.
Break out the shorts.
I would like, what color shorts? I'd like to see those shorts with those legs, winter legs.
They're very white.
Me too. Me too. Unfortunately, that warm weather at this time of year always comes at a cost. We're going to have some rain, but we're going to have warm weather.
Okay.
Soggy shorts.
I'll take it.
All
Soggy
right.
shorts.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.